You've been warned. That way folks who aren't able to make it, they can come back and watch replays of it. We will put the links to the replays in that Google Doc as well. So today's about building community, and we picked a bunch of folks from our networks. So there's going to be folks that you know and folks that you don't know. So what I would love to do is, well, turn it over to Lori so she can sort of set the tone for logistics here, and then do some intros.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Awesome. So super excited to see all of you. I know some of you, and I don't know some of you. So we'll get to those introductions here in a minute. As we're all figuring out, I'm one of those folks that is kind of a newbie to the remote work on a regular basis. And so just kind of talking through using Zoom and this kind of remote work connection. What we'll do is just kind of standard practice. We'll everybody just leave themselves on mute until you want to talk, and then you can unmute yourself so that we're not competing or with the background noise and the dogs and the cats and the kids and all those things that we know will be going on. So we'll do that. Whenever possible, it's great that we've got people that are just calling in on the phone so that you can be part of this as well. But when you are in front of a camera, if you're comfortable turning on your camera, that's really helpful. I think that makes a big difference in how people connect, being able to see each other's faces. And even if you're silent, I can see you're laughing at my jokes, and that makes me feel really good. So some of you are falling out of your chairs laughing at my jokes, so that's always good feedback. There is a chat feature at the bottom of your little menu there on your screen, and so if you do have resources or links or things that you want to share with the group, you can paste them into there. Eric's going to pull all of that together for that Google Docs repository of information. You can private chat with each other. So if you want to, comment on how attractive Eric looks today in his black, no. So anyways, you can chat amongst yourselves too, or share drink recipes, whatever you need to do. That's awesome. We have this scheduled for 30 minutes, three days a week, just to have this touch point. Whenever you're able to jump on, that's awesome. If you're not able to, totally fine. We'll start the calls at 4:30 and we'll go as long as people want to talk. If you have to jump off at any particular time, that's just fine as well. So again, just like you would come and go from a bar, you do you, right? We'll be here. So I guess with that, we can move into introductions.
Do it.
I will start with myself. So I'm Lori Lance, and I'm the Vice President of Human Resources at Cable Labs, which is kind of the innovation, research, and development arm of the cable industry. And so we have a small company of about less than 200 people. And I guess the one thing that I would say about with all of this, information coming to us, we've been, what I would say is pretty proactive in terms of the steps that we have taken very early on, thanks to, I think, our CEO, who's been very, very dialed into all of this and has been very proactive. And so, in terms of shutting down travel pretty quickly, and encouraging people to work remotely very quickly, having different levels of readiness for our facility should certain things occur around exposures or infections of our staff. What would we do in those cases, and communicating those very regularly with our employees. So I think what might have sounded extreme a couple weeks ago is actually pretty spot on for where we are today. So I'm super grateful to work for an organization that is very employee supportive in helping our people stay safe and take care of what they need.
Yeah, some of the things he said a week ago, we went, really? It's not going to come to that, is it? And here we are 2 days later, right?
Yeah.
So tell us who you are, where you work, and just something that's been relevant to you over the last couple of weeks as it relates to how things have changed. So why don't you kick us off, Jenny Jarose?
I knew you'd pick me. Why is that? I'm Jenny Jaros, and I'm the HR director for LTI Technology, and we are a software company that develops leasing and finance software for leasing and finance companies.
Where are you, Jenny?
Huh?
Where are you?
We're in Omaha, Nebraska.
Right on.
Yeah, we have about 115 employees. Everything you guys just said is very accurate. A week ago, we were like, wow, maybe we should talk about this. And we started putting a group together to start talking about what we would do if. And then within 3 days, we had tested everyone to see if they could work from home. And as of Friday, we said, stay home. Wow. We don't want you coming in the office unless you're essential. We defined who those people were. We stopped all travel. And that's where today was. So today was the first day that everybody was home, and it's a little surreal and odd. I work from home from time to time, but definitely not every day. So we have a call center in part of our business. So the support group, that's going to be hard, but it's working as of, 8 hours in. So fingers crossed.
Thanks, Jenny.
Yep.
Laura, how about you?
Sure. So my name is Laura Stoken. I am the Director of Administration for Public Sector Consultants. We are a public policy consulting firm in Lansing, Michigan. We have about 65 employees, give or take, on any given day. Really, I started a new employee today with everybody else working at home, so that was really interesting. But yeah, kind of the same as everybody else. It feels like we're really reactionary, which I hate, but I don't know how else to be necessarily in this time with things changing so rapidly. But I'm excited to be part of these calls, so it's nice to get to know you all.
Awesome. Thanks, Laura. How about other Laura?
Interesting that we have two Lauras on the call. Laura Hefton, I'm the Executive Vice President for Harris Data Integrity Solutions. We're a part of Harris Computer and their healthcare group. There's 16,000 people in Harris Computer.
Ooh.
The group that I'm over has about 300 employees. A large majority, we only have about 1% that work in an office full-time. The rest have worked remotely for years.
Oh, you're going to be our expert that we lean on.
The remote piece for us is not as new as probably it is for everyone else, but we had a team from the corporate level that's been looking at this for the last week and had a lot of executive calls around what would be the best for our community of employees as well as our clients. So as of Monday, as of today, all of our employees that can work remotely are working remotely throughout the organization.
And Laura, are you here in Denver?
I am here in Denver.
Awesome.
My team is throughout the U.S.
Awesome. And are you noticing, are you having to make decisions differently in different geographies, or are you just kind of making a company standard as it relates to decisions here?
We've made it based off of the client needs that we have. We work in healthcare, so we work with a lot of hospitals and clinics throughout the United States. So a lot of what we provide is for the people that are in crisis mode right now, and how can we work with them to help better support them. Our normal sales activities have we've had a lot of clients say we're not doing new sales contracts, so we're really thinking outside of the box and how can we help them with the solutions that we have through this crisis.
Awesome. Thanks, Laura. Mr. Namath.
Hello, this is Mike Nemeth. I'm a VP of talent at a company called Red Canary. We do cybersecurity. So there is a lot of stuff going on in that space right now.
Oh my gosh.
I was originally brought to the group. I met Eric over 10 years ago, which is crazy. Yeah. Via different channels. We've lived in the same neighborhood. I've seen Eric play in a band, which that guitar in the background is probably not a prop. He plays and he's very good at it. So there are, as far as our community, our company right now is at 170. We have 100 people in Denver and then another 70 spread out among another 29 states in the country. So highly distributed workforce. When we decided to go remote last Wednesday, it was still impactful because we still had a pretty good corporate base here in Denver. So it was still transitioning into that and trying to get people up to speed on what that looked like. But it's been a good transition, and we've had some really positive feedback on how that's been handled so far. So it's been interesting, progression from going from trying to lead to keeping up with what's going on. There's been there's literally hourly progressions of what's going on in local communities, which we're still impacted by because we still have remote employees in San Francisco or wherever, where they're literally down on shutdown. They're hunkered down for the next several weeks. So there's a lot going on, and I appreciate this community, and anything that I can help with, share or learn, I'm happy to do so.
Right on. Thanks, Mike. Ruby, are you still with us?
It's on the phone.
Yeah.
Yeah, she had
She's
to
transitioning.
she had to transition and head out.
Yeah.
How about you, Michelle Swing?
Let me go off of mute. Hi, and on Wednesday I promised to be on Zoom. Today I am in transit, but my name is Michelle Swing, and I am a business partner at Zayo Communications, headquartered in Boulder, Colorado. We have about north of 3,000 employees. In terms of kind of what's going on, as you can imagine, our customers are banging down our door right now because we provide bandwidth to companies. So they are aggressively trying to get more bandwidth so their employees can work remotely. And we're in an interesting phase right now. We are definitely not a culture of work from home. As a matter of fact, it kind of flies in the face of the culture at Zayo. So the last week has been interesting as we transition to that and actually, trust our employees to do their jobs and focus more on making people accountable and checking in with employees regularly, just trusting that they're going to do the right thing. So we are still manually tracking every individual who's working from home based on the reason they're working from home. So I would say we're just a little bit behind the times.
Nice.
Yeah.
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 So
Just a tad bit. But obviously we have network operation centers that need to remain open, critical employees that need to be able to touch the networks. We're working frantically to get government approvals so that we can do that remotely if we need to. In Canada, it's been a little challenging, but that's what's going on at Zayo. And thank you for inviting me to the call. This is exciting.
oh my gosh, thank you for coming. Stacy Hollander.
Hi, I'm Stacy Hollander, and I have had the privilege of working with several people that are in attendance today, including Swing. It's so good to hear your voice. And,
you too.
Yeah. And Lori and Eric, great to see both of you. It's funny because I used to work for Eric and I now work for Lori. So that's been fun. And I'm an HR business partner at Cable Labs. So since Lori shared a bit about our company, I won't go into much detail there. We're located in Louisville, Colorado. The biggest challenge I think I'm having right now is not only with the pace with which things are changing and trying not to overthink everything and trying to always have the right answer, just accepting the fact that perfection just isn't going to be a part of life right now.
So true. I mean, that's a huge thing, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I think one of the things that makes the HR gig tough in times like this is there's an expectation that we know the answers and that we have a plan to smoothly and coolly roll things out. When sometimes we shut the door and we say, fuck, because we don't know the answer and we don't know what the right thing to do is. And with the rate at which things have been changing in the last 2 weeks, a thing we thought was true and correct on Wednesday was absolutely the wrong thing to do on Friday.
Yep.
And that's an extra layer, I think, of anxiety and stress on HR folks in general. Because, I mean, let's be honest, the business ignores us for a lot of the times until something like this happens. And then everybody wants us to have a plan that we can just roll out, and we're making it up, right?
Yeah.
That was one of the reasons that I thought getting people together would be powerful. Thanks, Stace. I appreciate that.
Yeah, for sure. And there's something I'm definitely interested in. If anyone in the group has any wisdom to share, is I support folks that are on our nonprofit as well as our for-profit side of the business. And what I'm seeing right now is, as we on the for-profit side, we've got folks in the lab that need to be there to test all the devices that we're all using. So a lot like Michelle was sharing about the need to have people on site doing stuff, coming up with the plans to help them manage through that. So in case someone is infected, they're not infecting everyone in the lab and then everyone's out at the same time. So today I was suggesting a 2-week on and off rotation to one of our leaders, but I'd be curious to see if anybody else had any other ideas, especially working in close quarters like the lab.
The lab.
Yeah.
Swing, are you guys doing anything like that with knock people?
So we have talked about it. As of Friday, we weren't doing that. I think what we have been more focused on is making sure they have the technology and capability to do it remotely if they have to. And there are several who don't have to touch the network that we've given them the authority to work from home. So we don't have as many people in our offices, in our labs, anything like that. So it's a reduced workforce. And they're cleaning regularly. I think what we need to really start contemplating is, data centers and our field techs.
Yeah.
If they get sick, it's more like, sometimes we just have one person in a location who can turn up service if that person gets sick.
Right.
Then what?
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you.
I'm curious.
Yeah, but we talked about oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but we talked about the rotation too. I think that makes a lot of sense if we can, if we need to make it work, or if you can make it work.
So something that I was curious about that we put together, and I was wondering about other facilities, is sending out information to employees about sort of the if-then statements. If an employee or somebody in their household is exposed to somebody with, that's known to be positive with COVID-19, what we're doing is asking them to contact us. And what we would do is put the facility on what we were calling a yellow status, where we would shut the facility for 2 to 3 days, have deep cleaning staff come in, which we've already kind of prearranged with our environmental services group, to come in and do a deep clean of the facility if that person had been in the facility in the previous 14 days, and then reopen to allow people back in that need to be there. And then the next layer is if somebody is actually tested positive and they've been in the facility in the past 14 days, then we would move the facility to a red status, where that's shut it down completely and not reopen until we had better information about what was going on. So I was just curious if you had any like facility level plans for people that might still be working on site.
Swing, Jenny, Mike.
And sorry, so we've had code yellow already. We've already had to close down one of our knocks for 3 days and disinfect and clean it, have it cleaned. Luckily it was kind of a false alarm, but we haven't had a positive. But that's why we've got the contingency plans, because if we do, we would have to shut down.
Jenny, are you guys doing anything with your on-site critical employees?
Yeah, I mean, we're doing a rotation of people that are going to be on site in our tech group. And we only have like 9 people in the company that can even come on site.
Okay.
Right now, and only if necessary. And that's basically to pay the bills.
Right.
And to run payroll if we need to come in and grab something to do that. But really, we shut down in general, just because if one person came in infected, we have one site. I mean, we have a couple remote people on a satellite, but we didn't want to ever get to the point that, well, that person was at the same place as someone that was tested positive and now we all have to be quarantined. That would just, that wouldn't work. So we went ahead and just shut it down to begin with. But we can do that in the business we have. We don't have people on site that are working in like laboratories or on production lines or whatever. So we have that luxury, I guess.
Yeah.
Not everyone does.
Who was it that onboarded today? Did you say somebody had a new employee today?
Yes, I had this is Laura at PSC. I had a new employee on board today.
So I'm curious, how did you do the I-9 checks, or did you just do them at arm's length? You know, drop your documents, I'm now walking over. Because in theory, the documents carry the virus for 48 hours.
No,
So what did
we did not practice social distancing, her and I, today.
You hugged her, welcome to PSC. Love it. All right.
I did have a long conversation with her yesterday about her comfortability and all of that. And so, I mean, it is what it is.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Because somebody else asked about that. And I'm giving a virtual keynote now on Friday to an HR audience. And I have a feeling that might be one of the things that gets brought up in the brief time I have. Thank you.
Well, hey, while you're on the mic there, Morag, why don't you introduce yourself?
I am the unicorn herder at Sky Team, and I am here for moral support. And I promised to keep quiet, so that was it. In one of those days. I love you all. It's wonderful to see you all. And Mike, we just need to get to know each other, because I don't know that we've met, but we should.
I agree.
I recognize everybody else on the call. So.
And yeah, Mike just posted a link in the chat to do I-9 remote verifications. Apparently there's a company already.
Okay.
There's somebody who does that. Yeah, we've worked with them for a couple of years now. So having a highly distributed team, obviously we're not gonna, as much as I'd love to, because we just hired someone in Hawaii, fly out to do their I-9 verification.
Right.
Use this company called Verify I-9 Remote, and they've been great. So
awesome.
it's less than a couple $100. And it's easy.
So my question for you, I know it's early days, but how has this impacted talent acquisition, right? Just from interviewing on down the line. I mean, are you guys shifting everything remote? Are you doing any sort of, testing or pre-quals?
Yeah, good question. I mean, with having a pretty distributed workforce anyways, I mean, all of our incident handlers and detection engineers, the people who are doing the hands-on, security work, we're at an advantage where they've worked remote already.
Yeah.
Because they're on shift work and we hire them that way, that it's easier for us to adjust for those, really mission critical roles that are already remote. It's been great. But with all of that being said, we have had to shift. There's no doubt about it, because we still had more than half of our company still worked in the Denver office. So it's certainly been a transition. I think part of it is really understanding, the needs of the community and making sure we're engaged, and we're highly engaged in Slack, and people, posting pictures of what does my workspace look like, or tomorrow we're going to do, show me your best pic of your St. Patrick's Day outfit or whatever. I mean, there's different things you can do to try and engage people, but it's been interesting. And I think our company is unique where people are used to, bobbing and weaving. We're not a big company who's trying to shift, the meter while in flight. We've been used to this. So I think for us, it's been easier than other companies for sure.
Nice. We're going to have potentially some interesting onboarding we have a pretty robust internship program for being less than 200 employees. We typically have about 20 interns every summer. And, as school wraps up and we start to look at the status of our facility and where people are working, those are some folks that need some pretty direct onboarding and leadership in order to get something out of their internship. So
and do you have remote interns?
Exactly.
I mean,
yeah.
I mean, you're planning to keep them, because this is going to be key for them. They're worrying about their experience. They're worrying about the few dollars they might be earning over the summer and how.
Sure.
So at the moment, but as far as at 5 o'clock, it's still happening.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's part of, so one of the things that our organization is, one of our core values and what we do every day is innovation, right? And so I think that's something we are going to have to deeply embrace in terms of getting creative about how do we do this. And we love our Zoom, right? Our tools for that. And it's probably going to take a little bit more maybe guidance and leadership for the sponsors of those interns to kind of coach them and how do you make this a valuable experience for them when you can't sit side by side with them potentially.
Yeah.
We'll need to be thinking about that for sure.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said at the beginning of the call, I'm going to share a Google Doc. It's already got some stuff in it. We had some questions that came in this morning around the new bill that's in front of the Senate right now, HR 6201. So I posted the full text to that in that document, and just proposed changes, what that means to FMLA, and at the state level, the different jobless benefits things that are on the table, paid sick time, all this stuff, as well as some interesting stuff on remote work. You sent an article about Comcast and things you can do with your voice remote. What was that?
Yeah, so there's actually a lot of so cable companies are members of our organization. And so we're seeing all of the things that they're doing to promote connectivity, right? As people are trying to work from home and kids are doing school from home and all of that. And they're doing a lot of great things around providing access to people who can't afford it and eliminating caps on things and not cutting off people's service if they're not able to pay. But what Comcast also did, which is pretty cool, if you have the X1 remote, the Xfinity remote, if you speak into it and you say coronavirus, it gives you all kinds of resources about that. And if you speak into it and I think say education or something like that, then it creates a bunch of resources
cool.
for parents to be looking at what, how do we figure this out? And so I think that's kind of a cool thing that I've been seeing that I'm trying to focus on is the goodwill of humanity about how business leaders and organizations are trying to do good things to help people. And I think that's the other thing that we can try to focus on is, rather than the doom and gloom of the situation, looking for what's the hand up that we can give.
I'll share some resources on the document that came out of a similar call that I did earlier today, but I also saw a headline that Scholastic are making all of their online courses available for free during this. So again, for people who've got children at home, they're worrying about how to keep them entertained or at least focus on their education.
Yeah.
So we'll see what we can find out about that link and add that to the document too.
Yeah, that's awesome. I put in a link there too that the Zoom is free for schools right now, which I thought was an amazing thing. So share that stuff. And I want to be mindful of time because I know we're just slightly over the half hour. Wednesday, we'll pick a topic to dive a little deeper on, so it won't be so haphazard and bouncy, but definitely bring your things, anything that's occurred to you, anything that you've had a success with or you've struggled with that you think that the group could benefit from. Please bring them. This is our platform to make what we want, right? And like I said, for me, it was about building a little bit of community. I enjoy seeing people's faces whom I haven't seen in a while. It's great to hear that everybody's doing okay, right? Everybody's checked in, and to Lori's point about innovation, right? It's the disruptive moments that are forced upon us that actually provide the spark for that innovation. And I'm anxious to see what good things come out of this incredibly challenging circumstance. So
if you know people that might be interested, please let us know so that we can add them and they're able to join and participate as well, because I think it's important that we be here for each other. So let us know.
Are you planning to end, or should we keep going for those who can and want to stay?
It's up to you guys. I want to be mindful.
Okay, well, I'm still here.
I still have half a drink, so I'm doing all right.
I think I've got some catching up to do.
I was going to say, me too. I think I need to go get one.
Now you know the full rules of engagement.
Yes. So I think the only other thing that I wanted to say is just something that I noticed today. we were talking about a little while ago, the restaurant closure. So, that's a thing that happened in LA and in San Francisco and then in New York. And then it happened here today. And the closure of the dining rooms, that wasn't the thing that surprised me, because I kind of figured that was going to happen. The thing that surprised me is that in Denver, that is an 8-week deal.
8 weeks.
And, I think from last Wednesday to today, everything, trying to gauge the timeline of what this is. Ruby and I were supposed to be in DC today, and we shifted that to April 1st because that seemed reasonable. That doesn't seem reasonable anymore. And to hear that, dining rooms will be closed for 8 weeks, I mean, that puts us deep into May, right? That surprised me. And that was just sort of an indicator of the scope.
Yeah, we on Friday, when we had an all-staff meeting to encourage everyone that possibly can to work from home, we didn't mandate it, but the message was, please do so unless you need to touch equipment on site. And we set the expectation that people should plan on doing that till at least May 1st. Wow. So we put it out there for 7 weeks.
And that was one of those things that seemed like, oh, that's crazy. And now all of a sudden, that's not so crazy. And, I think coming up with ways to navigate the length of this disruption is going to be, I mean, if you thought employee engagement was a critical problem before, it's a whole different problem now. And that's why maybe folks like you, Laura, you've got some insight into how to keep remote workforces engaged and how to keep people with their, sort of keeping their eye on the ball, even amidst trying to avoid the news all day. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I have not been super productive this week.
It's been a struggle.
Only Monday.
Day, what's that?
It's only Monday.
I know.
Tell your boss that.
She told me that earlier. Yeah, it's only Monday, and I scheduled a meeting at 4:30 that involved drinking, so that's where we are.
Well, I think I just had a great one from LinkedIn. They've got some great things that you can share with people, especially if they're on LinkedIn, on how to work remotely, how to do time management, and some different things like that. I think for one of the skills I've learned over the last 10 years of working remotely is over-communicate. Because when you're sitting at home and you're suddenly isolated and you're used to being in that environment, you have no idea what everybody else is doing. So I think from a leadership perspective, it's really encouraging your leaders to over-communicate with their staff, especially for the next few weeks as they become accustomed to this. The first thing I would give you is my words of advice.
So our CEO, we use Slack incessantly, Cable Labs. And our CEO sent a message first thing this morning to the executive team about over-communicate. And he even suggested things like schedule a virtual lunch, right? Have something on the calendar where everybody gets their lunch at wherever they're doing their work, and get on Zoom and have lunch together. Not to talk about work, but just to be together. Yeah.
Or even have a remote bound bag meeting if you're doing something, where everybody can communicate. And I think using a visual is really important as well. People will fight it because they don't want you to see what they look like, and they're not getting dressed to go to work. You have to just let all of that go and realize we're all in the same boat together at this point. Your hair is a mess, you're in your pajamas, whatever it is. It's okay. It's just the new world that we're all in. So be nimble with it and don't get caught up in those little idiosyncrasies and views that we have of being perfect. I think that was a good one that Stacey said, was just don't be perfect. You can't be at this time.
Yeah. I love that. And people hate looking at themselves on video. It's just life. And it's interesting because we did a lot of work with some teams at Google for a few years, and they're all globally distributed. And they had what they called a cameras up policy. So every meeting was virtual and every meeting was cameras up. And when we first started working with them, I hated it. But it changes the nature of the interactions. And after about a week, it got to the point where, you'd get into the meeting room and you would see somebody and you'd be like, oh, hey, Laura, how are you? How was the baseball game? You know, how's your dog or your fish, whatever, right? We just ended up having a different level of conversation, which I thought was really cool. You have to your point, you have to get over yourself. Just let it be and be there. And, you know, sometimes you get to show off your cool Leadville background.
That's a great brown bag to have. Show everybody how to put one of those up on Zoom so we can all.
Yeah, well, it's funny because Morag and Ruby and we all ordered green screens yesterday. So
I'm so jealous.
So we got green screens and cameras and new microphones coming. You know, figuring if this is where we are, right? Let's up our game. Let's make it such that
dive in.
Yeah, let's make it such that it doesn't look, you know, like a washed out, you know, webcam from 2009. And take advantage of the technology. I mean, it's not expensive anymore, and it'll the ability to do what we did for the last half hour 10 years ago. You don't have a lot of money for that, right? And I don't know, I don't want to jinx the internet gods, but everybody's web connection was great, right? Nobody phased in and out. It was awesome.
Yep.
We have a lady that work that really enjoys looking the part and dressing well, and we are very low key at our office, so it's
really
a hoodie, just a little. She was all, I don't know if I want to do Teams meetings because people can see me, and I'm like, well, just because you're working from home, you can still put makeup on. Like, it's like no one's told you.
There's no law against that.
Like, whatever you want to look like is fine. Like,
yeah, you don't have to wear pants. That's really the only difference.
Right. I mean, as long as you're sitting and we don't have to see it.
Run for the doorbell.
Right.
And that's where Morag put her head in her hands.
I'm not wearing
Pants are optional, but you must stay seated at all times.
Oh, yeah.
Morag hasn't worn pants since last Wednesday, so it's fine.
Oh, she's muted.
You're muted. We can't hear you.
You muted yourself.
Mic drop.
Well said.
Oh! Guys, thank you so much. If you have a topic for Wednesday, if somebody's really interested in something, I know, Laura, you had a couple of questions. If you're really interested in a topic, let us know tomorrow or Wednesday, and we'll carve out some time to make sure we address that. Like I said, I'll share the Google Doc with you guys. I'll add the links from the chat today and any other relevant things that come in. By all means, feel free to add them. I know you kind of go through a process every morning where you kind of look at all your inbound messaging and decide what needs to get focused on. If you guys come across something, because I know the communication pipeline is really a fire hose at this point in time. And one of the things I would love for that Google Doc to be is separate the wheat from the chaff document, right? These are the things that we think are either really important, really interesting, or really uplifting.
Yeah.
Right? Because I think we could all use the uplift right now. I'm so grateful to every one of you for doing this, for showing up here today. Big love. Do it as much as you can. No harm, no foul if you can't. If you think this was a complete waste of time, peace on that too, right? It's all good. But we're going to be here Monday, Wednesday, Friday through May at this point in time. Like Lori said, if you got friends that want to come, let them know.
Yeah.
Shoot us their email and we'll get them in work.
Invite them, but stay 6 feet away from them.
Yeah, right. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you on Wednesday.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.